In What Trauma Looks Like for Incarcerated Men, a study for men's lifetime trauma exposure in two-state prison, published in 2018 with M. Morrison, T. Wren, C. V. and C. Weatherly, you examine the trauma histories of a randomly selected sample of 67 men incarcerated in the Missouri Department of Corrections. Taking into account that the research questions were what type of trauma exposures are common for this sample of incarcerated men, and at what ages are trauma exposure most common, can you share those answers with us?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we were really interested in looking at the timing in which men were experiencing a traumatic event prior to incarceration was because neurobiological research, neuroscience research has shown us that the developmental period in which a person experiences trauma or adverse events can influence their vulnerability to the negative symptoms of a traumatic event. And what they found in males is that adolescence is a particularly vulnerable period in terms of their having symptoms that become very problematic. So in this study of the 67 men, is that what we found is that the average age of trauma exposure was 17 years old. So it was right in the highest vulnerability period for a lot of these men. And even though they weren't all 17, many were not many years younger than 17 or not very many years older than 17. And what we also found was during this adolescent period is that these men were most likely to be exposed to traumatic events in their community versus inside their home. It was something that, you know, a lot of people think that when trauma is happening, it's only happening as child abuse or whatever. But we were really seeing that it was happening in adolescence. It usually involved the witnessing of violent deaths of family members or friends, and it was happening at a high vulnerability period, making these individuals particularly likely to have these negative symptoms of trauma. And what that tells us is that we, again, if we can enhance our trauma identification and intervention for everybody, but for boys and young males in the community, we may be able to disrupt future criminal behavior or future involvement in the criminal justice system.